Okay, 6 o'clock. Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Julio Martinez. I don't see him on yet. Councilmember David Fenn stated he would be absent this evening, asked for an excused absence. Treasurer Baron Janetti.
Present.
Chairman Thomas Lemasters also stated he would be absent this evening, asked for an excuse. Vice Chair Steve Cooley.
Present.
Member Frank Parks.
Present.
Member Keith Bacon.
Present.
Member Cesar Marufo.
Present.
Alternate member David Vanderpool.
I'm here.
And alternate member Damian Butler.
Okay, we do have a quorum, so let's go ahead and get started. We may be joined by somebody else in progress, but that's okay if they come in. It's certainly, we're glad to have them. So first thing is, have we any requests for excused absences other than the ones we've already had?
No, sir.
Next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and Mr. Vanderpool, can we get you to lead us in that, please?
Sure. Go ahead and put your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We move on down the agenda. Are there any adjustments that need to be made to the agenda as published?
None that I'm aware of.
Okay, I'm not hearing any. Are there any conflict of interest disclosures that need to be made? And again, I'm not hearing any. Okay, this meeting will be open to the public and conducted in a virtual format to be inclusive of all participation preferences. Public comment participation is encouraged by emailing any comments to the city clerk's office or by calling and using the phone numbers provided on the front of the agenda. Have we received any to date?
I have no written comments. Jennifer, do we have anyone on the line?
No callers.
All right. So then let's move on to the action items. And the first item that we need to look at today is the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Anybody have any comments on those? If not, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll move approval. Keith Bacon.
Okay, Keith Bacon's made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
And Mr. Janetti has seconded. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Treasurer Janetti?
Yes.
Vice Chair Cooley?
Yes.
Member Parks?
I have to abstain. I wasn't present.
Okay. Member Bacon?
Yes.
Member Marufo?
Yes.
And the motion passes, and we approve the minutes dated July 12th, 2021. The next item on the agenda is the fiscal year 2022 General Fund and Wastewater Fund budget to actual through July 21, and fiscal year 2021 fourth quarter pool cash investment report. Jennifer Eustachian will have this report for us.
Yes, good evening, Finance Committee. What I have for you is the budget to actual for general fund and wastewater. This represents 1 month of activity. What I do want to point out is that we are right in the middle of accrual for fiscal year 21. So a lot of these numbers are going to look a little odd. And now accruals take place all the way through end of August. So what that means is we're collecting in receipts for paying bills that we have to remove out of the current fiscal year and put into last fiscal year when they're related to the past fiscal year. So we'll move on to general fund. And I just want to point out that kind of what I'm talking about with the accruals and your sales tax. All of these sales taxes are going to move into fiscal year 21 because we're receiving those payments all the way through till the end of August. So what happens is when we do a reversal, the reversal gets put in at July 1st, but sometimes receipts coming in anytime between July and August. So it makes those numbers kind of skewed when you look at these reports. Our charges for services, those are more up to date as those are collected as we perform the services. So you have a little bit of activity in your business licenses and in your permitting. I want to point out that permitting is higher this month than what it has been in previous years. So that's some good news right there. And our franchise fees are a little bit higher so far in this year, and those will not be accrued back. When we go into our charges for services, we have a few invoices in there that will be accrued. And I've made that note on the side. And our interest receipt will also be accrued back. So you can't really trend how revenues are going to pull forward. So I have gone ahead and just put an estimated budget amount as what we're looking forward to the future year. And as we go along throughout the year, I'll be able to trend that out better. Moving on to our expenses, we have one of the 26 pay periods in here. A portion of that pay period is also accrued into previous fiscal year. I believe it was 4 days. So that number is not also accurate as to what you're going to see moving forward, but it is a piece of it. And our benefits portion is a little higher that we pay our unfunded liability throughout the year. That payment is made in July. So instead of spreading it throughout the whole year, month by month, we pay that up front in July to save a little bit on interest. And that is why that number is a little larger than what you see in your salaries. And we have paid our annual liability and property insurance. And so that's why that amount is large. It comes in July, so that has hit. And the ending balance, again, is just going to be off because of the accruals, but I'm still showing your estimated ending balance with what was left over. So we had a budgeted balance, balance available of $774,751, and that's revenues over expenses. And that amount will be available for council to allocate throughout the year. And I will stop there with general fund to see if there are any questions.
Is that balance a firm number, or are we still waiting on some accruals and other items to come in?
Well, so we're still in the process of doing everything, but this number on the side over here, the 774, that is what we had budgeted for revenues over expenditures.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the public? We don't have anybody logged on or anybody here, so I don't expect to see any. But we will ask. And any comments from the committee before we allow or encourage Jennifer to finish or move on with her report? Not seeing any.
Okay, I'll move on to wastewater. Again, I want to point out that for wastewater, we bill in arrears. So that number, anything that's sitting in revenue is for prior year. We have not done any billings yet for fiscal year 22. And then moving on to expenses, there's not a lot going on right now for July, but you have the same going on with the one of 26 pay periods. And a portion of that is also going to be accrued in prior year. And then we have a utilities, looks a little high right there, but there's a payment in there also that needs to be accrued back. So I have, again, just a balanced budget estimated at the end of the year for this. And as we go forward, I'll be able to trend this fund out as well. And so are there any questions with wastewater before I move on to the next report? Okay, I will move on. Our next report is a new report for the committee. This is a pooled investment and portfolio holdings report. This is just to give you an idea of where we are with cash and investments. I do want to note that this report will look different once we get on board with our investment advisor. We met with them and they gave us a strategy and a sample portfolio that we reviewed. And for right now, we have chosen to not move in that direction yet. We are going to have monthly meetings with them to go and see how the market is doing. As of right now, the difference that we would receive going into a portfolio with the advisors versus staying in Lake was 1 basis point. So we kind of figured we'd hold off until the market improves a little bit. And we're going to have those monthly meetings with them until we can figure that out as we go on. That would be the city manager, myself, and the investment advisors. And I'm open to any questions you guys may have.
As for any comments from the public, again, we have no public member in attendance or online. Any questions or comments from the committee before we move on?
Sure. I just want to just say that this is a good report. I like that we're seeing this now. Is there anything in particular that inspired this report to start this report, or why are we now doing this?
Well, it was brought up, and we just brought the new investment policy forward, and it is something that's applied in the new policy. Is that you will get an investment report, and so that's why we're bringing this forward.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thanks for that comment. I'm sure some of us appreciated hearing that and being reminded of where this came from. Well, at this point in time, I think it's appropriate to ask for a motion to approve these reports for moving on to the council. I'm looking for a motion to approve these and pass them on. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion. Caesar.
We have a motion from Caesar. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Keith.
And a second from Keith. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Martinez,
Yes.
Treasurer Janetti,
Yes.
Vice Chair Cooley,
Yes.
Member Parks,
Yes.
Member Bacon,
Yes.
and Member Marufo.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. That action will be taken. We'll move down to the next item on the agenda. And that item is the subcommittee reports. And let's go from there. The first update we're looking for, anything is out and available, is the Internal Control Committee.
Yes, Steve, I think you and I need to schedule a date to go in and follow up on that. It's between our schedules, we haven't had a date to go over and do that final check that we had discussed.
Okay, I think we're both confident that we can meet before the next meeting of this committee and be on top of that and have something to report back the next meeting. The Financial Training Committee.
I guess my biggest thing would just be an update in terms of did council decide when they want that presentation. I don't know if that was addressed.
I don't remember that being brought to council for action or direction, I should say.
Okay.
So Chairman, we probably want to ask that be put on the future agenda so we can discuss it for the council.
Well, it's actually one of the ones that was originally set up 2 years ago, and we had put it at the bottom of the list, and we had activated it when
Yeah, but what I'm referring to is it's asking for a council direction on a time, correct? Is that what I have in my notes here? I have in my notes that we're looking for time or a date from council. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. So
Okay.
when do we want to have this done by? Just so
That's what I was referring to. So
sure.
we haven't had that. You can probably just put that in your report, Barry.
Yeah, well, I think it's a matter of the team that's assigned to that. They were assigned at our last meeting, is coming up with a plan of what's reasonable. And then I go to the council and say, council will have that in
okay.
6 months or 4 months.
Okay.
All right.
I mean, I don't want to keep
That's
passing
fine.
this ball back. The council has approved it. And there's 4 other items I'll talk about when we go through the existing 3.
Okay. sounds good. But we can decide. I just wasn't sure what was going on there.
I'd lay out your work plan on what you think is a feasible time to get to the end product and what your intermediate steps are.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so can we expect some kind of a feedback by the next committee meeting?
Yeah, I can contact
Will
the
you-
other people.
Okay, will you take responsibility and run with that?
That's fine. I'll talk
Okay.
with, I'll contact the other people on the committee and see what we can do.
Excellent, thank you. And then the CFD training and frequently asked question committee. Is there anybody on that group here today? I think we may be missing the members that were running with that.
I believe I may be on that group chairman or vice chairman, but we haven't connected to put together anything.
Can we request you make a contact to those other committee members and see if we can get something so that we have some kind of a response for these items on the next meeting?
Yes, sir, we'll do that.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think that moves us down to future agenda items. Is there any?
Well, Mr. Vice Chair, Steve, at our last meeting, we had a discussion about additional activities that we might be able to support. We had a good discussion and good contribution by Councilmember Martinez. I took those to the council last month. I'm trying to think of, I guess it was last week. And they have come back and approved the 4 items that we talked about and also gave us a priority of those 4 items. So I'd like to get them on the record. We probably can't discuss them tonight, but we can discuss them at the next meeting and assign people to work on them. But if you remember, I'll go down these and in the order that the council prioritized them. So number 1 priority was the financial policies associated with CalPERS liability. Okay, the retirement plan. So that was number 1. Number 2 was bond accountability. Number 3 was financial policy again, was our reserve. Was, what is our reserve? How do we maintain our reserve? And the 4th on the list of priorities was the long-term financial sustainability of Beaumont. They're the 4 items in order of what the council approved that they would like to see us pursue.
Okay. So I think we should see all 4 of these appear in future agenda items, and I would expect that we'll at least address all 4 of those at the next meeting and make some determination at that point in time of where we're going with those, who's going to handle those, at least get it set up so that we can start working on those.
And we'll have to be careful because I imagine a lot of this work is going to be around Jennifer and her team. And I want to congratulate Jennifer on being put into her new position now officially. I didn't get a chance to say anything the other night, but Jennifer is now the financial director for the city. But yeah.
Thank
And
you.
I would like to make sure we coordinate with her so that we don't bog her team down with all these items at one time. So we'll need to assign people, Steve, and we'll have to also make sure we can work within her scope with all the activities that are going on.
Right. We'll, if we can get these assigned and find out their availability, and then we'll coordinate in with Jennifer and move forward from that. And of course, this has to work around the audit as well. But
Yep.
we can at least get started on it and get some determination of what abilities we can bring and what items we can look at. Okay, so that brings us down to the meeting review with the treasurer.
Well, simply put, I'm never one to look at the first month of a budget. It's always very difficult to see if you're on track or not track for a lot of reasons. And I think Jennifer gave us a few about the accrual process. So as it is right now, we are working on this year's fiscal budget, but we're also adjusting last year's with the accruals. We need to provide some input next meeting on the internal audit. Steve and I will meet over at City Hall and see what we can do on checking those items that were identified. There were processes put in place to ensure they were going to work. So we will review that. The financial training team will come up with their plan and when they think they can meet the deadline on that. And the CFD training and FAQ, they need to look similarly at where they are going to start. Well, actually, there's been action started on that committee, but where do we go now to pull this program through? We were pretty much up to there up till the pandemic hit and everything got quarantined. So it's just a matter of revitalizing some of the issues that we had. And we will discuss membership on the various other subcommittees that we just addressed at our next meeting and carefully coordinate with Jennifer and her staff.
Thank you. Finance Director Jennifer, do you have any comments?
Thank you, Vice Chair. I'm just going to add that we are working with HR right now to fill the vacancy in the finance department. So, we are a little limited to our time on working on projects since we're in the thick of the year-end process. And we are diligently looking on working on the budget book. So we have the new budget book that's coming out that we're working on. So we are keeping up. We're still doing our daily duties, but we are in need of getting that vacancy filled. So I will continue to update you on how that goes. Thank you.
Jennifer, can you let us know what that vacancy is and what you're looking for? I think these committee members have some contacts, and if you make us aware of that, maybe we can put the word out a little bit more as well.
Okay.
Is it currently posted?
Not yet. It will be posted. It'll be coming up shortly.
Okay.
Is this your position, Jennifer? Is this your?
Yeah.
Probably need about 2 or 3 people to fill that job.
Yeah. When you do post that, will you have that emailed to the committee members and hopefully we can help spread the word on that and maybe even have somebody that might be appropriate.
Absolutely, will do.
Hey, I think we've covered everything. Quick, short meeting, but it's beginning of the fiscal year reporting period, and there's not typically a lot. So I think it's time for adjournment. And with that, the next regular meeting of the Finance and Audit Committee meeting is scheduled for Monday, September 13th at 6 p.m. And look for information as to how it will be had, if it'll be a hybrid meeting or whatever. Everything kind of depends on what happens with COVID as we roll on down the road. And with that, we'll adjourn this meeting at 6:22 p.m. I think that's probably one of the shortest ones I've ever seen, but I think we accomplished and did everything that needed to be done. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your
Thank
input
you.
and
Thank you
support.
all.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.